So good morning, everybody. This is Kiara Windrider. It's January 26th, 2024. And I would like to maybe share a little bit of an astrological perspective for this year and perhaps the next couple of years as well. Somehow 2024-25 feels tremendously important. I remember even years ago, I would look forward to this date as something in some time where there would be significant changes, significant shifts taking place on the planet, both in the collective consciousness and also in terms of earth changes and um, the awakening of our planetary evolution. So there's a few things I'd like to touch on as we look at 2024. And particularly at this time, as we enter January of this year. So, by far, some of the most interesting and powerful events going on right now is Pluto moving into Aquarius. So, on the 20th of this month, the Sun and Pluto were conjunct in the last degree of Capricorn. And the very next day, January 21st, they together moved into Aquarius. Now, why is this important? What's the conjunction between the Sun and Pluto represent? And what's the journey into Aquarius mean? So the Sun and Pluto, the Sun activates the power of Pluto. Pluto represents the power of the soul. It's often invisible, especially if you're invested in denial or repression or somehow hiding from the truth of who we are. Meanwhile, the Sun activates. And so this activation of the Sun over Pluto as it moves into Aquarius is the beginning of a very strong awakening for the entire planet. Pluto is moving from about 18 years in Capricorn to where it's going to now spend about 20 years in Aquarius. While Pluto was in Capricorn, it was going into the structural components of our psyche, the various political, economic, social, and personal systems that give us our sense of structure. Capricorn is about structure. And Pluto being there is like breaking up those old structures, is bringing the light of the soul deep into old programming where we've been stuck and bringing in everything that needs to come up to the surface. Now, as we move from Capricorn to Aquarius, Aquarius is about building the new earth, building a new consciousness. So everything that we've been preparing for, breaking down, we're now looking to break through, especially because later in the year, in May, June, there's a lot of things happening with Uranus. Uranus will be squaring Saturn, a couple other planets. And so Uranian energy, which rules Aquarius, is strong. What it means is it's sometimes shocking, it's sometimes unexpected, it often creates tremendous drama. And in this journey of awakening, it doesn't really hold back. So anything that we've been holding back in our own lives, that maybe in the future we'll be ready for this, or maybe at some point when it's more convenient, I'll make changes. That's going to happen very quickly now. And this has to do with world events, political events, as well as our own personal journey. So, for instance, the United States has been also going through Pluto return. What does that mean? It's like Pluto returning back to the point of its origins in the birth chart of the United States, which is 1776, July 4th. Now, Pluto's cycle is 248 years, and exactly 248 years from its origins, which is last year, Pluto is crossing over its point of origin in the birth chart. So it's shaking up things. Pluto is about death, rebirth, transformation. And wherever there's karmic patterns that are unhealed, it's going to balance. So, looking at the United States, as well as the entire colonial history of humankind, because the United States, in some ways, represents the Western world. So there's a lot of karma that has to do with slavery, colonialism, genocide, which is now coming to the surface. It's breaking out in the last couple of years in terms of wars going on in the Ukraine, proxy wars, and now happening in the Middle East with Palestine, Israel, and the 75 years of colonial structures behind that. So, since the Balfour Agreement, when Israel was given land carved out of Palestine by the British, who had no right to parcel out that land and displace the original inhabitants of that region. So 75 years later, that's become a huge point of conflict. What's happening from this point onwards? So what the energies are about is like a balancing of old energies that have to do with unconscious abuse of human rights, so including what's been going on in the United States for the last couple hundred years with the confrontation of civil rights, of human rights, of women's rights, and so on. And now we're talking about earth rights. Do we survive as a species? Do we survive as a planet? Those are the issues that are being confronted now. So as Pluto goes through Capricorn, Capricorn is also about connecting deeply with the earth, with the entire body of the earth, the soul of the earth, the emotional, mental, personality structures of the earth, which is a living system, it's a living being, just like we are. So as Aquarius, as Pluto moves into Aquarius now, there's a potential to awaken what we've been calling the Aquarian age, the new earth consciousness within the collective, within our personal and planetary structures, within our governing systems, our political, economic, business models. So we can look for something entirely different. We can look for new ways of conducting ourselves. We can look for scientific revolutions, new inventions, moving out of an age which is based on fossil fuels, even moving out of a dependence on solar or wind power into something that has to do with free energy technologies, which Nikola Tesla and others have been promoting for a long time. So those are some of the things that we can expect. Artificial intelligence, what does that mean? Some of it has meant breaking away from the human divine blueprint and creating structures that have to do with artificial enhanced intelligence. Whether or not and how much of that succeeds, we don't know. But there's also the potential for an intelligence based on the patterns of the soul, new DNA potential for new activation within a human genome, what the new species is about. Many people refer to Homo luminous. This is the next human species, or Homo universalis. So some people, the Theosophists, for instance, or the Anthroposophists, refer to the sixth and the seventh root races. This is something I've been writing about also in my books. The last three of them, Isa, son of the sun, Miran, daughter of the moon, Elmira, child of the stars. It's about recognizing our journey out from the Kali Yuga, out from the ages of darkness, into something that is new. It's an evolutionary process that hasn't manifested yet. So we don't know what it will look like, but we can say that there's a tendency to see this in terms of rapidly changing structures, rapidly changing identities, who we are as a species, who we are as individuals, who we are as planetary beings will no longer look the same. Some people, like I have a friend, Bibhu Sen Mishra, who wrote a book called Yuga Shift, which just came out this year or last year. He talks about, he's been studying the Yuga cycle. Some of you may be familiar with this. It's a 24,000 year cycle that Sri Yukteswar made familiar. It has to do with the precessional cycle, and it also has to do with the cycle of density that the ancient rishis have been studying. It has to do with the journey of our sun around its twin star, which happens to be perhaps Sirius, and then together, the two of them cycling around the center of the galaxy. Now that's an entirely different cycle. But the journey of our sun around its twin star takes 24,000 years. When our sun is closer to the galactic center, we're closer to an age of light, Satyuga. When our sun moves away from the galactic center and Sirius, or whichever twin star we happen to be referring to, comes towards the galactic center, then we are further away in an age of darkness. So these are natural cycles, ages of light following ages of darkness. Now we happen to be moving out from Kali Yuga into Dwapara Yuga. So these are successive ages, Kali Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Treta Yuga, and then finally again, the age of light, Satyuga. So this transition from the age of darkness to the age of energy happens according to Bibhu Sen Mishra, March 21st, 2025, which is next year. So this time of transition isn't just a short-term cycle having to do with temporary astrological ages, but perhaps has to do with larger cycles known as the yugas. So humanity is preparing. There's a lot of indications that our species is undergoing a shift. Our genetic potential is going through changes. Our vibrational frequency is changing. And as these things happen, this is all in the realm of Aquarius. As Pluto moves through Aquarius, the next 20 years, from 2024, 25 to about 2040, 45, there'll be so much changing on this planet. I don't think we can even begin to imagine it. In my book, Gaia Luminous, I go into some details about different phenomenon, galactic, solar, planetary phenomenon. In this last book, Elmira, Child of the Stars, which is a fictionalized version of some of these things. I go into more specific um, breakdowns of what could be happening in the next 25 years, or even the next 20 years. So it's a time of breakdown followed by breakthrough. It's a time of transformation and shift. It's a time that we can co-create something bigger than anything we can imagine. So this year, April 8th, there's a solar eclipse. This solar eclipse will be visible throughout the United States, again, back to the United States, which is also going through its Pluto return. So there's a lot happening which will revolve around the US at this time. It could be a complete collapse of the economy. It could be political or military um, changes of some kind. We're getting ready for an election in November. What's likely to happen? So if we are looking at this transition of Pluto moving from Capricorn to Aquarius, this can be a blueprint for some of the things we can expect. Sudden, powerful, and deep transformations. So I'll end for now. We'll continue in future videos. And please feel free to contact me, Kiara, at eternaldoorway.com. My website is kiarawindrider.net. My YouTube channel is Kiara Windrider. I also have a channel on the Conscious Awakening Network called Age of Gaia. So please check that out as well. So blessings, all of you, as we enter into this new year. And may we grow in wisdom, power, love, and awareness.